David Hadland, welcome to the Photojournalism Hub podcast. We're both a bit nervous, aren't we? Not used to doing this.
Yeah, it's very, very new, yeah.
So, first of all, imagine no one's heard of you before. Just introduce yourself, maybe who you are, kind of what age you are, what you do.
So I'd probably call myself like a social documentary photographer. I mostly like specialise in portraits, and I'm 30 years old and I'm based here in London. Don't know how else to really describe myself.
No, that's a good
still
start.
Figuring out, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good start. So listen, tell us a little bit about, you mentioned briefly kind of portraiture, but having looked at your work, it's not just any old portraiture, there's a bit of an angle to it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about kind of when you first became interested in photography, maybe where you grew up, what was your journey to where you are now?
So I grew up in a small town called Dunstable. It's like attached to Luton.
No.
Yeah, Bedfordshire.
I've got the completely wrong. Yeah.
But complete other side.
I'm thinking of Dungeness.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's like this little town. It's like it used to be like a kind of stopgap town that people would pass through to get to London, like back in the age of like horse carts and whatnot. My family's kind of artistic. Like we all seem to have a knack for like drawing or kind of something to do with image making. Like my mum's a graphic designer. My brother used to love to draw. Same with my sister. But what inspired me to get into photography was my sister. She was like my biggest influence growing up. And I used to draw a lot in university, but I was never, not university, sorry, school. When I was in school, I used to draw a lot, but I could never really get into it very well. I always struggled to get the images from my head to paper. But then my sister did a lot of photography when she was in her teens and going into her 20s. She did a lot of band stuff and other things, and I always was really fascinated by her camera. It's just like an entry level DSLR, but when you're a kid, it's like wow, it's like this super advanced, amazing thing. So I always wanted to have a go of it, but she's like, no, you can't touch it. And but when I was coming to the end of school, I failed my GCSEs pretty much. I got D's and E's and F's, but the one I passed was art. I got a C in that. And I wanted to do sixth form, which was the extra 2 years in our school, and they had a photography course.
Yeah.
So we basically begged the head of sixth form to let me on the course, and after weeks and weeks and weeks of back and forth, eventually we convinced him to let me on, because it's kind of rare for a kid to be I want to stay in school for another 2 years. So they let me on the course, and then straight away I was just getting A's and A stars, because it was just a lot. So I just clicked. And I got my own DSLR for the first time, and it just I just really enjoyed the course. And looking back, it wasn't an advanced course or anything. They didn't really teach us much about theory or technical stuff, but it was just a fun place to go make images. And then I got to play in the in the computer room on Photoshop and stuff. I was just going in all the time, so that kind of really kicked it off for me. And that was all the way back in 2010. I didn't get enough grades to go to university. And I went on to the local college, and that's where they kind of taught us more about the technical stuff. And that gave me all the skills I needed to eventually go on to university, which was in 2014, yeah. I think a big part of it was when I was in school, I was undiagnosed dyslexic, and coming to realization now that I might have been undiagnosed autistic as well. So it just kind of went really under the radar, and when you look back, that makes sense why I struggled with a lot of these academic courses. But then as soon as I got into something that's purely visual and practical, it's no surprise that I just kind of really excelled and I found my thing. And then that's kind of how I've managed to stick with it ever since. I'm this is my thing now, I'm going to go with it. And also when I was a kid, I really struggled socially as well. And photography has given me this kind of structure to engage with people in the world around me. So it's not just a hobby or something that I want to be my career. It's literally how I engage and explore the world around me. And that's kind of given me the confidence over the years to actually engage with people. So 10 years ago, I'd probably be struggling to talk with you now. But after all these years of just doing photography, now I can kind of just walk up to people and just have a chat, get to know them. And after half an hour, I can walk away we've been friends for ages. So it's it's quite fascinating how just a little, just a camera can really be so therapeutic in a way. Yeah.
So that kind of then makes me think that if you'd been fat like that, and if there was any kind of neurodiversity that was sort of undiagnosed, that kind of gives you a sense maybe of the other. Of being on the other side of quote unquote what might be normal. And correct me if I'm wrong, you could be guessing here, that might be why maybe you empathise sometimes with these sort of subcultures and kind of see there is an otherness, isn't there? And people are feeling otherness and expressing it visually.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us about, you went on to do an MA.
Yes.
At London College of Communication. So so your subject matter, well, first of all, maybe explain your current subject matter. And I'm interested in, was this always your subject matter and this is what you started off doing at LCC, or did you kind of move into it?
I like getting into kind of like sort of documentary kind of portraiture stuff. It actually started all the way back in college after I did sixth form, because the college course I did was very technical. It was just like one unit would be like abstract photography, the other one would be like fashion, and the other one would be landscapes work. And we did one, I was struggling to kind of find myself, but then we did one which was documentary, and it just clicked. Like we had the entire summer to go and do something. The project I did wasn't that deep. It was just go around Camden Market and just do portraits of people. But like, so I just get the train to Camden and I'll just wander around for hours and then come back. And it just clicked. I just really enjoyed that kind of style of photography. I was always drawn to the more older classic kind of photographers. And like, I just got really engaged with like all these like documentaries and films and stuff. And I was just kind of like, hey, that's kind of my thing. And I remember like when we showed the work, when we got back, like my tutor made me go through the like slideshow again because he really enjoyed the images. And I'm like, yeah, like that's kind of where I found my confidence. And I was like, okay, this is kind of my thing. And then and it just kind of like, when I went into university at Kingston, I was torn whether I wanted to go into fashion or documentary, and I just really hated fashion. But then I just started drifting further and further into documentary, and by the end of the course I was like, yeah, this is kind of what I want to do, some sort of like long form documentary project about people.
So the themes that I've looked, when I look at your photography, themes that kind of jump out to me is about body image, and self-esteem sort of struck me. And body image and self-esteem obviously go hand in hand. It's a real big topic today with young women in the internet, and I've got sort of two-step kids and what have you. And I could jotted down some notes in combating sort of conventional beauty. Have you had any links with kind of organisations that have talk about body image? Do you think there's a role, perhaps your photography, to help people feel okay about themselves, or am I thinking too deeply about it? Or where do you see your photography in the community, if at all?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I've never really worked with communities, as far as I'm concerned. I think probably the closest was when I did my fishing project, because like I had like fishermen aren't the easiest to kind of.
Yeah, tell us a bit about that. That was your final project.
It was my final project,
LCC, right?
Yeah, because like originally started because it was like we had to do a project on disinformation, and I was like, I've never been a pro Brexit guy. Brexit's something I've always been annoyed about because, you know, being younger, like we lost a lot.
Older, me too.
Yeah, and like obviously fishing was, you know, they were like the one industry that was really supportive of it. And but they were the first to really suffer from it as well when it fully went through. So I was kind of interested in a project about that. So like trying to get access to them, you know, you can't just really just walk down to the docks and be like, oh hi, can I just come out to sea with you? So I was having to like message like groups like the Young Fisherman Network and stuff like that, and seeing they were having to like put out little adverts like, oh, there's a guy who's looking to photograph. And then I worked in Brixham with the Brixham Fish Market. And they like.
And that's Brixham, not to be
Brixham,
not to be confused with Brixton.
Yeah, Brixton. Everyone's just kind of like, wait, it's a fish market in Brixton. Brixham. Yeah. Sometimes you have to do that, like go through organisations as like middlemen. But I've not really worked with any community kind of like activist kind of groups yet. But I guess like with like how I guess I kind of want my work to kind of connect with people. It's more, I guess I'm kind of interested in people who are kind of, I guess I don't want to say like forgotten, but like people don't pay much attention to. I think because like when I was a kid, like in my town, like if you're just any bit different, you got a lot of like trouble for it, especially when I was in school.
Being different wasn't okay.
Yeah, being different wasn't okay, and like it didn't take a lot. Like you know, like I wore a lot of black when I was a kid. I was a bit like a little gothy vibes. Emo goth, yeah. Even though I didn't see myself as an emo. But like you just got a lot of stuff for it. So I think again, like that's what really drew me to like say subcultures, because like most people be like, oh, they're really weird for the way they do their hair or something. But I'm like, no, there's actually a lot of interesting history there because I'm a history nerd, and that's like with like subcultures. It's just like it's not like I've had people in the past when they look at my subculture work, they're like, oh, you like photographing edgy people, and I'm like, that's not for me. It's not really about like, oh, they're edgy. It's just like I like to think of them as like
Susan Sontag sort of.
yeah, it's like for me it's like I like to think of them as like legacy subcultures because we're such a small island, but yet like through fashion and art and culture we've had such influence around the world, and like you know these subcultures like punks, skinheads, new romantics, like casuals, they've had such an impact, and even like today, even though they don't like they still exist to an extent, but like they're not as big as they used to be, but you can still see their influences in fashion, the way people like still make images today. Like you know, like skinheads are pretty much responsible for like Dr. Martens being a fashion thing, and like shaved heads being fashionable, and things like that. And like today, like you get a lot of people who think about like experimenting with like gender in fashion when like that was already being done like very long ago, like with goths and new romantics and stuff. They were playing with gender in fashion like donkeys years ago.
It's a different name.
Yeah, it's just a different name, and like, but it's like I find it really, really fascinating. There's so much history, and I find it cool, like where it all comes from, and like what caused like the changes in fashion and the music and everything, and yeah, it's just for me, it's just a history treasure trove, and I like there's people that still trying to keep it going, and then like how it influences, and they're like these people who do it now, they're keeping that legacy going. And it's just, and again, like how it, through the internet now people see it and it influences people around the world. Like say like skinhead culture, like it's kind of, it's still here, but it's quite niche. But like it stretches as far as like countries as Malaysia, and like there's a huge skinhead culture there in Malaysia, and you wouldn't really think that. And same like places like Italy and whatnot, like big punk scenes and stuff, even though it's like gone here. But yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of cultures that had their roots probably in the 60s and 70s when you think about skinhead, goth, you know, casuals. When I was at school in the 80s,
Yeah.
casuals were all the kind of thugs and whatnot who'd go around fighting and be on the terraces. Do you think the punks and the skins and the casuals would be created in an age of the internet, or do you think the internet has maybe sort of given people too much choice and you don't have these kind of strong cultures coming through as much as you might have done when people really saw it as a way of coming together?
I think it's hard. It's really hard to say. I think it probably the internet would have just made them grown more because now because of like apps like Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok and stuff like that. It's easier for people to get influenced and learn about them more. So I think it's able to spread and yeah, just kind of influence new people and get them into it. I think and help them learn about the history of these subcultures and where they come from.
So when you talk about the history of that, you must be photographing a lot of people maybe in their 50s and 60s who are old school skinheads and teddies from back in the day, or did you find actually there's a lot of people who have used the internet to be drawn towards those cultures, and has the internet maybe given it a new lease of life in some respects?
Yeah, so it's like when I photograph subcultures, I like to focus on people who are more on the younger side who have gotten into it. So like when I started doing skinheads, I learned like about how the movie This Is England kind of created a new sort of interest in the subculture. And then it was like through like YouTube and stuff, seeing little films that are made about skinheads. Like I think it was Dazed or Vice. They made a documentary about these three skinheads like down in Kent or something like that. So it got me interested, and I was kind of researching, and yeah, there's this whole little community that was still like existing. So like through Instagram I'd find them and like reach out, and then obviously through them you just kind of find more and more people. But Instagram was my main way of finding these people online. You just type in like hashtags like punk, skinhead, goth or whatever, and then you just see what accounts pop up, and then you just be, because I use Instagram purely for my work, there's no personal stuff on there. If I just reach him out, you just kind of have this legitimacy straight away, and they'd be like, oh, he's an actual photographer, he's not a weirdo. And I'd be like, yeah, should we just meet up and I can do your portrait and we'll just get pictures from it, take like an hour. And yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there, really.
Do you find there's any resistance for some people, for some communities about wanting to be photographed, or is it that natural process of let me come and meet you, get to meet me, and then you build up that trust? How does, you mentioned research for Instagram, but talk about the kind of your workflow, your kind of research, and you know, how you build that trust.
So it's actually, it was surprisingly easy. Like, because especially with these kind of people who have a part of these, like as I said, like legacy subcultures, like, because I predominantly photographed in black and white, they just loved having these images that look like they're from that time. They were just more than happy to be part of it. The best kind of method I had was you kind of found the most like influential figure in those little communities, and if you photograph them and then they posted the image and people saw it, it'd be like, oh, if this guy's given this photographer his or her time, then like there's somebody kind of worth giving my time to.
To snowball, and word gets round.
Yeah, and word gets around. Like, for example, when I did tattoo artists, there's this tattoo artist called Duncan X, who's very, very popular in the tattoo community. I originally approached him and he said no. And he just said, he wasn't like trying to be mean or anything. He was just like, oh, I don't like my photograph being taken. But when I spoke to other tattoo artists I photographed, they're like, yeah, that's a lie. He loves his photograph being taken. So as I did more portraits, as I did more portraits and word got around about me, he eventually saw them, and this one guy I photographed, he said to him, if you see him again, let him know I want to speak to him. And then, so the guy told me, he's like, yeah, Duncan wants you to do his picture. So I was like, oh, look who comes crawling back. And I eventually did his portrait. But it's nice when it happens. And again, there was this like, this person who's very like popular in like the sort of goth community, who goes by the name Palmer Ham. And they were very like recognizable, because at the time they had this like massive like 4-foot mohawk, and they went viral. I found them through Facebook for this like viral video, and I had to like hunt them down on Instagram, and I eventually found them. I originally asked for their portrait and they just never really responded, so I left it for like a year and a bit, did more portraits, reapproached them, and they were like, yeah, sure, okay, we can do my portrait. And then we just hit it off and became friends.
Think once you get a name for yourself, you know, people are more willing probably to kind of, you know, ally yourself with your work. They must have so many people saying, can I take your picture? And they get a bit bored of it, maybe thinking it's not going to put them in a good light, and clearly you do. So listen, tell us a bit about well, you've just finished at LCC. Tell us about what you're doing now. How are you making a living? How are you making it work?
It's quite hard. It's very hard to make a living in photography. Especially like most people like me have to obviously have like a side job. I mostly work in retail to get the money I need to go and do my projects, and of course like applying for grants, you know, doing the whole grind. And obviously like documentary is probably one of the hardest to make money from. So I'm still trying to figure it out, basically. I'm currently trying to apply for another grant to fund my work in Ukraine. And I'm saving up more money from my retail to go back there and do that, 'cause all my stuff there is self-funded. It's mostly just like, you just got to network, really. And my friend from my course put it perfectly, so you just got to make friends, and like,
that's good advice.
The more
be
friends,
friendly.
be friendly, make friends. The more friends you make, like, you just be surprised how like maybe your one friend has skills and you have another, and you'd be like, hey, why don't we just work together and we can do this. Like again, me and my friend Oscar from my course would try and put together like a sort of community group to help people kind of get that sort of support after they leave, you know, to kind of keep working together, sharing ideas. But it's hard. I'm still figuring out. I'm still very much fresh off that course and trying to get into the industry, especially now like my work has taken a huge turn over the past couple of years. I've very much gone from documenting subcultures to trying to get into like conflict photography, and that's a whole different ball game. There's a lot of like red tape and hoops to jump through, like
risk assessments.
Like I had to do
hard hats, foreign office.
Well, it's not just that. Like when I was very much a novice, like just messaging around, being like, oh, I want to go and do some documentary photography in Ukraine. Can you support me? And then like I'm learning about things like hostile environment and first aid training, which I had to pay a lot of money to do. I wept when I transferred that money, but it was worth it. Like now you have it. You have this, obviously the training to keep yourself safe, but it gives you more legitimacy as well to be like, I have this training. But it's just like, you know, it's and getting things like accreditation and whatnot, it's a nightmare, but it's things that people don't really know about. But so I had to.
Not something that actually we teach on the course.
No, we know nothing about that on the course. But but it's like, but to be honest, like we don't really cover conflict that much on the course. A lot of it's like the course is more, it's obviously centered around like there's a lot of ethics on the course, and it's yeah, it's not what a lot of people think. Where there's definitely people who came on that course thinking they're going to teach you how to be a magnum photographer, and that's not really it. It's more how to make, like, I guess, political art, but through the medium of photography. So yeah, you don't really learn a lot about accreditation. We have like a little hostile environment section.
Or how to survive financially.
How to survive financially.
Build a website.
And build a website,
Like
yeah.
that.
Like photography it's like a lot of creative subjects. It is just a lot about who you know, and just it is a grind, and obviously if you're someone who comes from a disadvantaged background, like if you're working class, or you come from like an ethnic minority, you're having to work 4 or 5 times harder than somebody who comes from privilege. In LCC, there is a lot of people who do come from privilege, and you do see it is frustrating when you finish the course and you have to go and work in retail. You have to kind of do your side thing, find time to do your projects, and there's these other kids who are like, I'm just gonna go traveling, and they can just go off and they can just use their family's money to go and do that. But again, the benefit of going through that harder part is it really grounds you, and obviously you have you have a link to reality. You know how real people live, and that really helps you with your work and helps you connect with people. Yeah.
I'm going to finish off talking a little bit about Ukraine, because that seems quite a leap, doesn't it, in some respects?
Yeah.
You've kind of gone from photographing what is around us here in the UK, and the subcultures, legacy subcultures that you've talked about. So Ukraine, tell us about the photography you're going to be doing or have done in Ukraine. Are you going to be using some of the same techniques, focusing on subcultures within Ukraine, or is it kind of pure war photography and conflict photography?
Like I said before, I'm a huge history nerd, and I've always had a interesting conflict.
A period?
To be honest, it kind of spans. When I originally got into it, it was World War II. Like, British people, we always start learning about the world wars. But obviously, it's fascinating. But obviously, wars are linked, and like how they've shaped Europe and the world. And so obviously, like I'll go from like learning about the wars to like the interwar years, like 1800s, 1700s. They all link, and then obviously into the Cold War, and it just created this passion for history, and. I've always like countries like Ukraine and like Belarus and like the Baltic stuff. I've always had this fascination with post-Soviet states, and my fascination with Ukraine really kicked off when I went there for the first time in 2015, just after the Maidan protests. I remember watching the Maidan protests on the news, and I was every day watching it, and like it was really fascinating to watch, because like here in Britain, we're very apathetic, I think, politically. We don't really protest much. Yeah. I wish we it feels weird saying it, but I wish we were more like the French, that we protested more. Yeah. But, and like at that point, we'd been under like 3-4 years of austerity, and to see these people kind of come out in force and protest for something they're very passionate about, it was very intoxicating. Ukrainians just have this like amazing spirit when they come together. And so like, I was really drawn into them for that. And then, 2015, me and my friend went to Kiev, we went to Chernobyl, and because again, like we're history nerds, and I just fell in love with the country. And then through that, again, through like Instagram and stuff, I discovered more of these like artists. Like Ukraine has this like amazing like collective of artists there, like tattoo artists, photographers. But I've always been drawn to conflict photography, and I've always wanted to do it, but it's just like, it's very hard to get into. It's like you're like, what is your place? And I've never been drawn to being just the typical photojournalist that just chases the news and just goes wherever something happens.
The shock and the obvious.
Yeah, I'm not into that. Like I obviously there's this connection I have with soldiers. I think because again, like there's obviously I've always been drawn to like conflict as an interest. But there was always a part of me that was thinking of joining the army when I was 16. But obviously getting into photography, that's kind of what changed my course. And like I've always been drawn to the human experience of war, especially through the lens of a soldier. Like there's one of my favorite shows is called Generation Kill, and it's about these US soldiers during the invasion of Iraq. But it's not about the glory of fighting or the conflict. It's about these people just existing, and like having to basically like morally and spiritually kind of navigate through this like huge thing that's going on around them. Before the full scale invasion of Ukraine, like the wars were like Syria and Afghanistan. You need to know what you're doing if you're going there. And obviously you still need to know what you're doing with Ukraine, but Ukraine changed everything. That was like the first large-scale conflict in Europe. And when it kind of kicked off, I was like, and I realized it's going to go on for a long time. I was like, because I've got friends there. And so it felt a little bit more personal because I'm like, oh, I might not see my friends again, or, I might never get to go there again. And I thought maybe I can do like a little project, raise some money for some charities and kind of just help. And also like a lot of people here in Britain, even though we support Ukraine, there's a huge gap of knowledge of like Russian imperialism and colonialism and really what's going on in Ukraine. So I thought maybe I can help educate and just trying to figure out how to do it. So I just messaged around, got an opportunity to photograph these soldiers training. And I was just like, cool, I'll go. And I went. And yeah, it was a really interesting experience. I was like, hey, I can actually do this. Like, this is something I can do. And it's like, it's the perfect marriage between my passion and knowledge of conflict and in my passion for photography. It's like, it just makes sense. So then I made connections through that and I just went back again and then again. And then it's just like, I was like, yeah, this is really what I can do. And then that gave me the drive I needed to apply for the MA. And then I did that and I was just like, yeah, this is where I sort of belong in this kind of documentary place and like conflict. It's like I said, I don't want to be this like chasing the news. I want to do something that's long form and more personal and intimate. Like when I want to go and photograph with soldiers, I don't want to be just like, oh, I'm there for the action and the thrill. I want to kind of really help people understand, because I think especially in this age where we're consuming so much content from conflicts through social media, war feels so gamified and people lose their humanity. And like I kind of want people to reconnect to these soldiers because like it must be so hard. Like Ukraine, just like all of us, went for 2 years of pandemic, and then when the pandemic ended, we all got to go on our holidays, we all get to live our lives, but they went straight from pandemic to full scale invasion. And like for me, I got to go and do my MA and get new opportunities, but like what about a guy in Ukraine who wanted to go and do a course, wanted to learn new skills, but it's like, no, instead of like picking up a new piece of equipment or learning new knowledge and picking up books, he had to go and pick up a rifle and go and fight off the invasion. And maybe die. And there's all these guys who I met and spoke to, like there's this one guy, I can't remember, I don't think he ever told me his name, but his call sign was Festival. He couldn't speak any English, so we just smoked cigarettes and talked on Google Translate. And I remember him telling me like, I'm here so my daughter doesn't have to be here in a few years' time. And I'm like, I just really want to help people who don't know a lot about the war and like are like, oh, why can't it just end? Or why can't this make peace? And I have to make them understand like, there's a reason why. These people can't just walk away. Because if they go, fine, we'll make peace, the war will just start again in a few years.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? That, the current desire to swap land for peace may just kick the can down the road.
It's very much kick the can down the road.
They'll be back.
Yeah, and it's just like... Yeah, we'll be back for more.
Bigger guns and a bigger army.
Pretty much, because if like right now these peace talks, which I think are just ridiculous, with this kind of work, I just kind of want to help people connect more and understand, because like I think that a lot of people here in Britain don't really understand what's going on.
So with that work, it's the question, the impact.
Yeah,
I agree. I think education and giving people much more of an insight through this medium is what photojournalism essentially is all about.
Yeah.
So with your work, where do you think it's best placed? Where would you like it to be placed? Where do you think it can have an impact? How? What might sort of, I'm sure there's the Guardian, but are there sort of places, are there schools you could go to or exhibitions you think you want to set up?
It's hard.
That's the biggest question, isn't it?
It's a really hard question because as I said, I'm still figuring it out. Like, I like exhibitions.
Your work being publicised, your Ukraine work being published anywhere?
Not really, because I haven't really been pushing it. Because as I said, I'm still figuring myself out, and like I'm still figuring like who am I as a. It sounds really pretentious. Like who am I as like a conflict photographer? Like
everyone always does. It's fine. It's a perfectly valid question.
And obviously, like there is that kind of the moral conversation of just like going you are advancing your career. And it's just like, and you're trying to figure out your place in that, because obviously, like, I don't go there because it's the in thing. You get photographers who go there because like it's the in thing. I want to go there and make money. But obviously, for me, personally, it comes from a place of passion for that country. Like the times I went there, I never made money from it. Never went there on commission. I went there out of my own pocket. The dream would be like for the Ukraine work is to get it into the Imperial War Museum, because if it's about connecting and getting people to understand more about conflict, that's the place. It's like, it's my home away from home. I love it there. And they do so much about...
It ticks all the boxes, does it?
Yeah, it's just like, I think, because like in terms of impact, I think I would love to make publications that focus more on long form work. I want to get people away from social media. it's even though it's the nice benefits of social media, it's a bit of a black hole. I just kind of want to get people to get away from it and kind of focus on
Get people out.
Get people out
Out of their house and going to see things.
like, because like exhibitions are great because you can really immerse them in some sort of world. And again, with publications, like to have something that people can hold and really interact with, I think that's kind of where I want to be. And like again, with my work, it's more about just like getting people out of their own little bubbles as well and interacting with other communities that they might not think about. Like for me, like with my fishing project, I was never interested in fishing like years before. And I remember when Brexit went through and it was always fishing. And I'm like, I don't understand it. Like, why did we care so much about fishing? I had a conversation with a girl the other day who also ended up photographing in Brixham. It was just like, it's so cool. Fishing is so interesting. And like, and with one of the fishermen I photographed with, and I told him about Ukraine, he's like, oh, it's probably not as interesting as that. I'm like, no, your job is actually so cool. It's a really cool job. And that's what I loved about photography. Like, it's getting me to interact with other communities. And I end up developing this passion for these people I photograph. And I just kind of want, it's about sharing that passion, being like, hey, look, these people they're freaking cool. Like, you should really look into them more. Like, because I just feel like nowadays people just find their little thing and they just stick with it and they don't really engage. So that's the thing about, like, say with photographing in Ukraine, it's like you see the same images again and again and again and again. So when I do get to go back, it's trying to figure out what can I do that's different or that feels a bit more personal than the same images of like somebody who's trilled on a mine and is unfortunately, has unfortunately trilled on a mine and is getting treated,
One leg or something.
One leg, or like
visual and obvious.
The same image of an artillery piece going off and you're seeing the shell leave the barrel, or like, some pensioner looking really miserable looking out the window. It's like you're seeing the same images again, and like, if I go there again, I want to figure out how I can make it different and make people connect a bit more.
Well, that sounds fascinating. I think that journey from Luton to LCC, skinheads and subcultures to fishing, it's quite varied. And I was looking at it; it's a really varied.
It's a really
varied,
wide
kind of
spectrum.
subject matter.
It's kind of funny actually. As a friend of mine called Connor, and he does a lot of stuff in Ukraine. And like I did after my first trip, I showed him all the pictures of these soldiers. But then I published these pictures of this burlesque dancer. She's very kind of gothic, but she's Brazilian and she's like amazing burlesque dancer. And I published that and he sent me a message like, get yourself a photographer who can do both this and conflict. And it's just like, it's just how I sort of jump about. But I guess it's just like, I don't really stick to a theme. It's just, I just love photographing interesting people. And I just love how this little black box, this camera, just gives you the excuse to just get into people's lives and they just let you in and then you just connect, and I just love it.
That sounds like a life worth living.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Listen, Dave, we're going to wrap it up there, but listen, thank you so much for talking to the Photojournalism Hub.
Thank you.
And hopefully we can get you some exhibitions maybe with Cinzia and crew and see you over in West London soon.
That'd be great.
Thanks very much for talking to me.
Thank you.